Hey, Wember World Entertainment, and Predator Badlands, of course, is on its way next month. That's right, it comes out next month. All the promotion and everything they're saying about it now has really kind of got me on edge about this thing. I don't think it's going to succeed. And that's unfortunate for, the first Predator movie you want to put back on the big screen. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to hit any of the marks. But what we are getting right now is a prequel comic book. We were told about this a while ago, but now we're actually getting to see what the covers are for it and some of the panels for it and what the ideas are behind this comic. So this comes from Marvel Comics. It's being written by a guy called Elvin Ching, and the artist is Elvin Ching, I think is how you pronounce it. But possibly butchered that, but they apparently worked very close as well with Dan Trachtenberg. At this stage, with everything he's saying, is that a good thing? I suppose it is for having it properly connected to the movie, but let's have a look at exactly what we're getting with this. So it's saying, like, back in August, it was announced that the upcoming Badlands film would be getting its own prequel one-shot comic. And today, Marvel gave us our first look at the comic artwork and the 3 cover variants you'll find. That's one thing you always have to keep in mind when it comes to these particular type of comics. They always end up putting out a crap ton of variants. Why do they do that? They're not different stories, it's just a different cover. It's to make you want to buy more. So, ooh, I need all 3 covers, even though you're getting the exact same thing. It's like buying a Blu-ray where, yeah, you want the Blu-ray, but then they give you the 4K edition, but then they give you the Steelbook edition. You're getting the exact same movie, you're just getting different covers and boxes and stuff for it. So that's what the whole variant thing is when it comes to covers. So it's saying written by Elvin Ching, who has worked on the Marvel Star Wars comics, and artist Elvin Ching. The comic sees Deck on a dangerous mission before the events of Predator Badlands. Writer Elvin Ching said they worked closely with Dan Trachtenberg. Now, the idea that we're obviously with Deck before the movie, what they're saying about this mission, I have issues with that, but let's see what the writers are saying. So it's saying, for a writer who grew up a lifelong fan of the Predator franchise, there is no bigger game than the chance to hunt with the Yautja. Working hand in hand with the filmmakers behind Predator Badlands, we made sure this prequel story fits into the cinematic saga like a puzzle piece. It's going to give fans a deeper, richer experience, especially when they get to feast their eyes on Elvin Ching's art, or Ching's, however you pronounce it. Dan Trachtenberg goes on to say that Badlands is the first Predator film to use the comics as inspiration, where he said, Badlands is the first Predator movie to draw inspiration so heavily from the comic books. So it's with great delight that you and I now get to look at splash pages from the minds of Ethan and Evelyn of a formative adventure for our characters that serve as a perfect companion to the film. Deck kicking ass in his very own comic book is a dream come true. And it says, the hunt begins. In the one shot, a young Yautja warrior is given a seemingly simple task by his father: retrieve a piece of technology from a derelict spaceship that crashed years ago. Inside, however, an ancient and deadly threat lives in wait. Obviously, everyone's probably going to point and go, it's a xenomorph. Could be, probably won't be, but it could be. So it's saying Predator Badlands #1, which is the comic, will be released on November 12th of this year. And what month? Well, I know the month. What date is the movie? Hang on, let's look that up, because I think that is something that you kind of have to figure out off where and how close. Right, so the comic comes out after the movie. The movie comes out on the 7th of November, so the comic comes out after the movie. The issue I have is them saying he has to go on this dangerous mission, and the reason I have an issue with that is the fact that we're told by Dan Trachtenberg and stuff with the movie was that the movie was meant to be Deck's first mission. That it was the case that he goes to this world to try and prove himself because he's the runt of the clan and stuff. So this is the one thing I do have issues with when you do prequel tie-in stories, is you can start muddying it a little bit by, as we're just pointing out here, that he's sent by his father on this mission, where in the movie we're being told, and Dan Trachtenberg was the one telling us, like, his father finds him the runt of the litter, thinks he's useless, tries to kill him by the looks of it and stuff, and to prove himself he goes to try and fight this unkillable beast. So that's where you kind of get issues when you do these prequels. It's like, well, how much of a story is he going to have? Obviously, he has to be victorious, or like at least come out unscathed from the comic, the prequel, because we see him in the trailers for the movie. We see him in the whole trailer for the movie, and he's fine. You know, he's all of his limbs. He doesn't have any marks on him, anything like that. So clearly nothing can happen to him in that story. The other issue I have is, particularly with these kind of comics that come from the Disney run end of these comic books. As we said here, the guy Ethan Sachs has written for the Star Wars comics. Now, it says the Marvel Star Wars comics, so I'm assuming that is the Disney ones. They tend to do a lot of kind of tie-ins to try and answer questions that are asked in the movies and shows and never answered. Problem is, they don't even answer them in the comics either, or the books, because that was one of the big issues when it came to Palpatine's return. Was everybody, how the hell did Palpatine return? And then Disney panicked and went, don't worry, we're going to have a tie-in comic book that'll explain it. And then the comic came out and people went, yeah, it doesn't explain it. They went, don't worry, we have another book coming out that'll explain it. And then people got the book and went, that doesn't explain it either. And then they released more comics and it didn't explain it either. They tried to, but they didn't. This could be an issue with this type of thing as well. If you start doing the prequel, so if we watch this movie, I don't think we're going to have questions of like, well, how did Deck get here and stuff. They're going to give us a comic book that realistically not a lot of us are going to ever see or read or know anyone that even sees it or reads it. And is it going to affect what was in the movie? Like, are you going to watch things or read things that are going to contradict one another? That's a big issue that you run into when you do these things. They can work, obviously, of course they can work, and they can be beneficial to the movies and the TV shows and stuff, and they can add more substance and kind of fill out the world a little more. But when it's a character like a Predator that you're to follow, which is the first time in a movie, now they're going to do it in the comic with you, it's like, do I really need or want to know this much about this Yocha? Like, you watched the original Predator movie, I wasn't sitting there going, wow, I wonder what this Predator got up to in his spare time before he came across Dutch and his team. You know, hearing Dutch and Poncho speak about when Poncho turns around and says, hey, do you remember Afghanistan? And Dutch replies, I'm trying to forget. I never sat there and went, well, I wonder what happened in Afghanistan. You need to see that story. No. And the point of that story was to tell you they've been dropped into the shit. And they know they're in the shit. That's why he says that, by the way. But overall, it could benefit the movie, but at the same time, it could contradict some things. Already, like, he's on a mission when we're being told, thought this movie is meant to be his first mission. Either way, it could work. The art is interesting. Some of it is a bit, like, the covers are interesting. Like, they're very, one of them is practically the movie poster anyway, but the panel work, for art, it does leave a lot to be desired. It is kind of very plain. Yeah, there's a lot of colour in there and stuff, but it's just the artwork isn't all that great, to be honest with you. When you think of the detail you could put into it, like, just look at the Predator's skin in the artwork, and especially there is one panel where he's like running on top of the ship, I think it is. He's somewhere, and there's like a weird bat thing. Just look at Deke's, or Deck. I keep calling him Deke. Deck's skin. There's absolutely no texture to it. It's all just smooth and plain, and so's the background stuff. So, to be honest, the artwork, it's not that great. There'll be people who praise and think it's fantastic. All the power to you. I don't, quite frankly, think it's all that spectacular. I think it's kind of very minimalist, and sure, that can work, but yeah, with the texture of the Predator skin, you could have done something, and you didn't. But overall, we're getting a prequel comic book that comes out after the movie, which I suppose is just as well that they don't put it out before the movie in case it spoils some things about the character. How do you spoil something about a Yocha? Don't know, but let us know if you're going to pick it up and read it, or are you interested in it? Do you even care about a prequel comic or any comic that would tie into the movie? Let us know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers. Catch you in the next one.